Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Futureproofing Your Career series. In the AI to bring to the chase all of us. In this series, my guests and I explore what exactly is changing with AI and technology advancement and how we can adjust our career strategy to stay relevant and resilient. My name is Yolanda Yu. I'm a career and leadership coach with over 20 years in business roles in the technology industry. And today I have Daniel with me. Daniel is the ex-CIO and co-founder of Hoolah, a fintech startup which was acquired by Shopback a few years back, which means he successfully exited. Daniel's entrepreneurship journey started way back in 2006. He co-founded a tech startup in Germany. So that was like before startup actually became a thing, right? And Daniel was also in various tech leadership positions in with global companies like Mastercard, Credit Suisse, and Xinjiang. He describes his leadership style as hands-on. Hmm. Hi, Daniel. Thank you for being here. I'm so excited about this opportunity to talk with you here today.
Okay, thank you very much for having me. I'm very excited to be your guest.
Okay, so Daniel, I mean, I want to just get to the point. You may not agree to this, but I must say, right, a lot of tech guys or engineers who dream of where you are today, right, having founded companies, one exited, the other one is profitable. So that's like the dream career, right, of being a successful entrepreneur who has also tasted the corporate life. So, of course, I mean, the experience won't be a fairy tale. And I think where you stand today is a start of the next thing for you. It's not, happy ever after, which although I hope you do, right? So tell us about your journey here.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, it wasn't a fairy tale by any means. And I was actually fairly average at school. My parents were damn worried of what would happen with me if I ever did a job. I didn't know. I think that's same as many others. I didn't know what to do with my life in my early days, and I didn't really have a plan.
No, and it was
So
in our early days.
And then things happened very differently. In the end, I was really driven by mostly opportunities and to put it several times where friends started making fun because I was changing what people doing over the time. But in hindsight, actually, it was really the right decision for me. So going back, so after finishing my secondary school with average grades and very unclear career aspirations, I ventured into electronic engineering through technical training back then in Germany. This is just an option of an alternative to studying, and it's an on-the-job training. So I invested 3.5 years, and I realized that's not what I want to do. I looked at others in the company and said, I can't do this for the next 40 years of my life. So this was pretty much my first pivot point back then, in a very early stage. So I was very keen on computer science. I was very keen on coding. I started learning coding and provided IT services to small companies back then in Germany in 2002.
Sorry.
I further realized, go ahead.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure, of course.
How old were you when you discovered that you lost coding?
Early 2002, I was 21.
You were 21, and then you just decided to
Yes. So I finished this training in 2000, February 2002, and I realized that's great. I spent 3.5 years. I'm now about to turn 22, and I realized that's great. 3.5 years later, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life.
Hmm.
And yeah, it was a really big move. So my parents were happy I was graduated or I finished the training, but yeah, I was pretty much fell back to point zero of what to do. So I went into coding. I was pretty interesting time being in IT back then, in the early 2000s. And so I started providing IT services to smaller companies, and I also returned to school to basically prepare myself be able to study at one point. So I did another year of school, and then in 2005, I started studying computer science. All the time I've been self-employed in coding via IT services. And then in 2006, when I was in the fifth semester of my undergraduate of computer science, a client of mine asked, "Hey, I have a project. Is this something that you can do?" I said, "It's way too big, but well,
Sorry to interrupt. How did you have a client when you were still a student?
well, I was pretty much since 2002 I started coding. I started learning these things, and then I had to find clients to finance my lifestyle, right? So I wasn't living home anymore. So I left home with age 18 with a training, and I had to figure out on how I can finance my lifestyle. I had to figure out how I can finance going to school again, and then eventually to study. So I was working all the time.
That was amazing. Okay, so you got your first client even before 2006 when you were still a student.
So yes, I was a student. I was a full-time student, and I was providing part-time services, IT services, and coding for a website in the area of e-commerce. Then one of my clients, the CEO asked me, "Hey, I have this project. Are you keen?" I said, "It's way too big." He said, "Well, let's set up a company." And I was never keen of co-founding a company with someone else. It was like, I'm not sure if I can trust someone. You may have different styles of working, all these things. So lots of biases. But with this client, he is 13 years older than me. I had a good feeling. I set up a limited company in Germany, so I put all my savings I had back then. I put into this company, and we are starting a software company, which was then interesting in 2006. So at one point, found myself as being a full-time CEO and a part-time student, which was a big challenge. So 2006 we started as a company. We developed our product. 1 year later, our savings were pretty much used up, and we realized product market fit, we haven't done our homework. So we had big challenge with the company, and we had people for the first time. We had employees back then, and I decided at one point, okay, you need to focus on the company. And I was then being full-time CEO. I continued my undergraduate studies as a part-time student in a full-time program, and so still I stretched my undergraduate to close to 6 years. And then we got more and more customers. So this was a software company and public services, and getting public service clients, like pretty much major cities on board in Germany was very, very challenging. But however, people trusted us with the software. So people,
Yeah.
say again?
How did you do that? I mean, actually, just to be very blunt, I believe, working with public companies are quite a pain, in general, from the, sales and client acquisition perspective. And how did you win the trust as a little startup?
I was very lucky that our partner is well known in this service and in this field. He's a well-known expert in the area of where we were doing business. So he was recognized as an expert, and I was coming in as a co-founder and running the company, and someone that trusted us.
Well, okay, so there is the power in that partnership.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm very, very grateful for this opportunity I had with my partner, and it was amazing. So yeah, I was then full-time CEO, part-time student, and we run the company. And at the same time, I still was very curious on Asia, and I wanted to explore any opportunity of being in Asia. So I really pushed the boundaries with my partner and saying, "Hey, listen, I need to continue my studies, and I need to finish that." And I took every opportunity I had during my undergraduate to study abroad. So in 2006, I went on semester break, 3 months. I went to mainland China, Yantai, doing an exchange program. I wanted to go to Singapore. This didn't happen. However, I ended up studying one semester abroad in Bali. eventually Juliana, starting business there. Had to come back to the company after 3 months. 1 year later, I went again, and I just took every opportunity to go abroad to Asia again and study there. I was still managing the company remotely at one point. Fast forward,
Yeah, Daniel,
What?
when I was listening to that, I find that really, intriguing. It's like a very young CEO who had this very mind, like, I want to learn more about the world. Like, for a lot of people to be there, it's like a lifetime. But for you were already there even, before that one, like your starting point.
It was a starting point, and in hindsight, if someone would say, "Hey, how did you do it?" I have no idea. I mean, we had a team of 4 employees. Our company was growing bigger and bigger, and I have no idea how to repeat it. I was pretty much fearless, which I think was very, very interesting. I had zero fear back then. I had my money invested there, but I was still studying. And at one point, I realized, well, one point I will graduate, and then I can figure things out.
And I'm just curious, right? Because it sounds like the company was doing well, of course, not without challenges. How would then there be opportunity cost for you to decide to study abroad and sort of drop part of that work?
Of course, it was. So the first couple of years, our company didn't do great. So as I said mentioned earlier, we didn't carefully think about product market fit. So we invested all of our money. 1 year later, realized software isn't the best grade as we thought it would be. However, we were really lucky. We had customers that really believed in us and helped us to get things right based on the needs. So the next 4 or 5 years were really, really tough. So it's not like we made a ton of money for the first couple of years. It was pretty much surviving. And again, we had employees. We had employees on the payroll, so we had to be very responsible about how we spend money. At the same time, it was very clear. So to me and my partner, we still had a full-time job anyway, that I have to graduate. But of course, if you're being a full-time CEO running a company, and you are still a student, it drags out the period of your undergraduate. So usually for the program I was doing, it's a German diploma, which is equivalent to something between a bachelor and master what we have here in Asia. It's usually 4 years. I was studying for over 6 years. So of course, the opportunity cost in a way of your undergraduate is taking forever. At one point, they were going to close the course. So I had to make decisions on how I want to proceed with graduating.
Okay, so
So I kind of really like, say again?
right, yeah. Sorry to interrupt. Just fast forward when you were in Cape when you came to Asia, and was Mastercard and first job, or before that was Credit Suisse?
It was Credit Suisse, but actually there was one step before, so I may quickly insert that. So in 2000, what is to check my own LinkedIn now? I think in 2010, if I remember correctly, I still had to complete my final research project for my undergraduate. Also around 2010. I realized I need to add something else. What to do next? This was pretty much the next keyboard point I had. I was the CEO of a first of all company. I had a pretty interesting life. I still had to graduate, and it was still like a weight on my shoulders on I need to graduate, I need to do the final research project and all of these things. So I decided to basically I want to step down as the CEO of our own company, where my partner would take on the role as a CEO, and I would prepare my exit of this company as an acting CEO. Once I made this decision and I let go on pretty much what I built in the past, and another opportunity came up. So I spread my network that I have to do my final research project, and as sometimes life happened, it was the mother of a good friend of mine. Her neighbor was managing or running a management consulting company in Shanghai. And but he used me and say, it's just voted on new management. Are you keen? basically, I had no idea, honestly, back then of lean management. I quickly Googled
What management? Sorry.
lean management, lean manufacturing.
Lean, is it?
Yeah,
Correct.
exactly. So with the production system, so they wanted to check out if they can apply the lean management principles on the R&D process. I had no idea about this one, I have to admit, but that sounded interesting. And 1.5 months later, I lived in Shanghai.
That's for sure. And
You were entirely random. I took this opportunity, sounds amazing. I can use this project as my final research project for my undergraduate. And then I worked in a metro consulting company working with international and Chinese clients from Shanghai and learning about lean management and how we can apply it to our clients and basically building a model on the for consulting.
it's really interesting. It felt like you couldn't have planned for this at all.
I know.
What you did was when the opportunity came from a friend, from some friend's neighbor, I heard, or actually, right? About a project that you had no idea about and a country that you haven't worked in or haven't been in China then.
Yeah, so my first exchange was 3 months in Yantai, and
Yes.
as you know, China very well, it's such a massive country, so it's very, very different. Everything is very different.
Yeah.
I've never been to Shanghai back then, and I had no idea of business company real, all of these things I had no idea. But yeah, I was passing this opportunity, and I just
You were ready. Yeah, you were ready to say yes, and it just went.
yes,
This
and it was amazing. I decided to leave Germany and basically do my final research project, and this opportunity showed up like this.
and then after that,
So I lived in Shanghai. I worked on the project, had an amazing time there, and I graduated. And I said, okay, now I want to get a bit of more experience in the corporate world. I joined a small management consulting company in Germany, which very shortly later got acquired by EY. And back then, I worked in management consulting, and I was getting bored living in Germany. With the past experience having lived in like twice in China, studied in Indonesia, I knew I have to go back to Asia. I was preparing for I had the opportunity after my project in Shanghai to join a class at INSEAD in Singapore, and with Russia Fakao, and one of the very famous faces of INSEAD. I was in this class and I realized, damn, I want to do my MBA in Singapore at INSEAD. I loved it. I loved the experience. So I had this idea of doing my MBA in Asia with INSEAD. And then in 2012, late 2012, I think, when I was preparing for my application for INSEAD and preparing everything, I had the opportunity or was introduced to business school in Japan, offering an MBA, and they were looking for someone with pretty much my background. And my background, consulting was pretty good. So I applied for this program and I had the chance to get a full-time scholar in Japan. And I was like, great, thanks for the full scholar offer, but I want to go to INSEAD in Singapore. I was preparing for that. I discussed with a mentor, and what's interesting in Germany is much less about you look at ratings or ratings of schools. You look much more at what is unique, opportunities, all those things. I said, hey, like, are you crazy? You have opportunity to go to Japan. It's amazing. And you're considering of going to India, Singapore, which is kind of, sorry, mainstream. I said, what's wrong with you? I said, okay, yeah, you have a point. So I said to Japan. I went to Japan. I was still, EY offered me sabbatical leave. So I went to Japan. Got another scholar from EY by chance, and I went to Japan. I was doing my MBA. I loved my MBA, and I was still sad of missing out on INSEAD and the opportunity of experiencing it. So I somehow signed up with my personal funds for an extra education at INSEAD. Was accepted for whatever reasons, I have no idea. why. And I applied basically as a CEO of Com Solutions and say, hey, I'm running a software company here in Germany and I'm CEO and take me on all this exit task, right? And they did. Which was very funny because it was in the last 2 weeks of my MBA in Japan and the program in Singapore started. And while I was the second oldest on my MBA in Japan, I was the youngest in this class, which put an immense pressure on my shoulders, as you can imagine. I mean, I've seen this in the MBA of I was a bit too old and like most of them were much younger and less experienced. And of course, with expectations, it did translate also contribute to your experience, right? But now I was the youngest at INSEAD in this exit program, and I was like, oh my God, everyone is so experienced. Everyone knows so much more than me. How can I make sure I contribute to this program as well? So that was,
So, and how did you cope with that, being the youngest in the room?
oh, it's pressure, but it's also exciting, of course.
It's so yeah, but how did you cope with that?
You do your best and go in with best intentions. Nothing else I can do, right?
Right? Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So I was seeing my classes in Singapore, missing on my MBA classes in Japan. I flew back to Japan, graduated from there, and then saw the challenge of what to do next. The challenge I do with my MBA, and I think this is very common for MBA, what's next? And the beauty with MBA is it gives almost a free pass to again people in your career and do something entirely different. The challenge I had with my MBA, I loved pretty much every module. So during this 1 year MBA in Japan, I shifted my thoughts of I want to work in finance, I want to work in M&A, I want to work in venture capital, I want to work in different areas. I changed it all the time because I loved every single subject. I really immersed into the experience of my MBA. I took every finance class and like, wait, you don't even have a finance background. I said, yes, I know, but it means I can learn the most, which I just take pretty much every finance class. So I took up whatever I could do my MBA. And then afterwards, I was pretty much lost of what to do next. Because, well, if you laugh at the subject, what does it mean moving forward? I took my last savings, went to Singapore. Well, stayed at cheaper accommodation, used up all my savings to only realize that in October, November is pretty low hiring season in Singapore, and I couldn't get a job. And I was burning through my savings. So after MBA, after having lived in Japan, still being employed as a medical leave, you should stay extended, gratefully, until April the next year, 2015. I realized in Singapore is everybody's hiring right now. I didn't really know what to do, and I was pretty much burning through my savings. So I left Singapore, went to Bali again, and I reached out to my network and got projects again. Luckily in Germany. For the same company I worked many, many years ago, they had a big project which I worked remotely from Bali. So I talk about savings again from Bali, working on this remote project, which worked perfectly fine. In the morning, can enjoy this, could enjoy Bali. After an evening, I was pretty much working for the company remotely in Germany. I came back to Singapore in January 2015, and then everything happened very fast. I applied to a number of jobs. I had eventually 3 offers, one in Jakarta, one in Kuala Lumpur, one in Singapore, and with the setup, then yeah, I do, but get up savings again. So I stayed in Singapore, started working at Credit Suisse, back to your question earlier, which was my first full-time paid job in Asia, and stayed there for 2 years. And from then onwards, I was living in Singapore.
Right. And after that, what were you doing in Credit Suisse?
So it was a project management role and working as center of excellence, looking on efficiency, pretty much helping to deploy resources from high cost locations or low cost locations, and helping to automate the process as much as possible.
Yeah.
It wasn't, to make you honest, my dream job, but I was the thinking behind that I was always keen on payment industry. And then I realized that banking experience and framework in the bank would be helpful to eventually go to the Visas, the MasterCard, and so on. Which eventually I really wanted to go to back then after my MBA. After this, where I realized. So I joined Credit Suisse for 2 years. And then a headhunter reached out and said, hey, listen, with your background in tech and in banking, are you keen to work on MasterCard? And I was, yes, that's my dream. I was so excited. I was so damn excited to join MasterCard. And yeah, I resigned from Credit Suisse. Was about to join MasterCard in I think it's July 2017, if I remember correctly. And 1.5 months I signed MasterCard, and 1.5 months before I was about to join MasterCard, someone from my network in Singapore reached out, hey Dan, it's a startup in payments. And are you keen? I said, hey guys, I'm joining my dream with MasterCard, but I'm happy to discuss with you, happy to help you for the next 1.5 2 months. But let's be straightforward. I will definitely join MasterCard as a dream job. I like the guys, I like the main founders, and yeah, and they came and I joined MasterCard. Hey, I can help you for another couple of weeks, but I will definitely work full time at MasterCard. And then again, life happened. So Yolanda is pretty much where we met in MasterCard back then, and then as you know, things were a bit interesting. Let's say it mildly this way. And I realized that the dream job that I always thought is there at MasterCard wasn't my dream job, but I was still supporting after office hours the startup and had to grow that. And actually, I really loved the startup. And this was again the next learning I had. Just because it was a dream job in 2015, it doesn't mean it's my dream job in 2017. I changed. And I enjoyed the startup so damn much. Like I was the interim CTO for the startup. I helped them to get the seed funding. And once we got the seed funding, I pretty much left MasterCard and joined full-time at our company. Back then we had built the MVP. I was the CTO until then. We were very lucky to get a CTO in, or another co-founder in, from who has built something very similar in Australia. So what we have done back then, let me share a background. So this company, payment company, was providing installments on purchases for e-commerce. Pretty much anyone knows Afterpay or Klarna in Europe. Pretty much using this model in Asia. There was no one else offering these services in Asia. So this was pretty much our business, and we had the opportunity to get in the ex-CTO of Afterpay, who built all the systems back then. As a co-founder, there was a no-brainer with this experience that he would be the CTO moving forward. And my role then changed from being the CTO to the CIO. So I was a CTO for a year, then I changed to being a CIO, and I built different functions as a startup. This company was called Hoolah. So co-founded 2017, and it was an amazing journey. It was tough, of course, but it was amazing. We had great success. We were the first software in the service. We got competitors fairly fast in Singapore, including one of them, Atomi, fighting us pretty heavily on rates, on MDR. And yeah, we were doing pretty well. Had, at one point, a team of 120 employees. As the CIO, I built the entire IT. I thought of bring your own device policy. How can we secure our IT systems? What do we do if someone's laptop is getting stolen? I was building the automation team. So pretty much everything the tech space that you can think of as a co-founder. So as a co-founder, it's not like, well, focus on only one role. It's pretty much wherever you need it, you jump in. So lots of firefighting, lots of changes in this role. And then in 2021, in November, we got acquired iShopback.
Yeah.
Pretty much from Hoolah. and they acquired us. And as of then, I was joining Shopback, supporting the M&A, both M&A activities, managing the automation team there, helping on the integration side, and taking on a number of different roles there, activities, and stayed for 2 years.
Which is quite a long time, given all the, so usually after startup gets acquired.
It was, yes, it was very interesting time, and it's very, very grateful to the experience. I mean, building a startup which isn't getting acquired is an amazing experience. And of course, it's very tough as one by your co-founder, and it's their shared company, and nothing someone was buying it, and they have their own opinions, their own thoughts on how they want to do things, and it's accepted. And this is definitely a very tough process of learning of your baby still not being bought. You get something for it, but it's not your baby anymore. And someone else can decide you move in this direction with this direction.
So thanks for sharing that story, which I feel there are still a lot more to discover. But if we were still looking, at this journey that you have shared so far, it feels like a few things I'm noticing, right? One thing is that you are really just very ready to take risks. And I think at least 2 times you mentioned that you put in all your savings. And that's a lot. It's a big deal at any phase of our life to be able to say, I put in all my savings, invest in this distance or whatever, right? And I think that's huge. And also the readiness to start from a new blank slate. The readiness to go without anything. That's just like so amazing. And of course, not everyone is ready for that in terms of the risk threshold. And I also hear you really value experience as like it feels like the number one driver, which you are always expecting your horizon. And I also kind of hear it sounds like you have a superb network because it sounds like it's not a godsend, but really someone from the network is reach out to you and say, Daniel, there's a random thing with you, and then you open the door and say, yes, why not? Right? So that just give me the idea that, I think probably have a really amazing network. And now later I would like to kind of dive in a bit more about that. And also here, you had but still just so agile, right? It's that you talk about your dream job of earlier time would not be the same, would no longer be your dream job at a later time. And then let me hear, how agile you are in terms of moving in between all these different identities, right? Corporate staff, startup CEO, corporate employee, to startup, a founder, and then later to working for a bigger company. So a lot of these, for a lot of people, that identity shift is pretty difficult or challenging, right? And you have tested almost all the roles possible. And I would be, keen to learn about how those transitions are about. Yeah. But before I'll forward all these questions actually first. But let's just sort of explore a bit more about what's next at this point in time, especially given that AI and all the technology changes, disruption, that the world we are living in today is very different. So I should guess about how you look at this world with all the changes, and how you're actually planning or not planning for the future, for the next steps.
Basically, I don't plan. Let's see my fans on this. I don't plan, and I think you can't plan. Whenever I thought I planned or I had an idea of what I want to do, things turned out to be very different. I think Singapore, ending up eventually being in Singapore, was one of the first things that really worked out as planned, but not without any hiccups. So basically, I don't plan anymore. Let me share an interesting example, and again, it connects to the comment on network and not planning anymore. So when I decided I want to leave Shopback, I had discussions with management on how can we plan an exit, how can we pair these things, and of course, if you come in as a co-founder of a company they acquired, It's not like, well, just leave like this to prepare for this, how is the communication being done, and so on. And eventually we had an agreement of I will be leaving the company operationally in November and still being employed for extended period. And I was about to get ready to go to South America. So I put in everything what I had in Singapore. I put in a self storage. Well, I'm fairly lean. I put everything in a self storage, and I was booked for South America, spending 8 weeks in Buenos Aires, and then take it from there. Do some remote projects and do that. The moment I closed the door of our self storage, I received a call from my network, and hey, we have an interesting project in Hanoi. Are you keen to join us? I said, hey guys, forget it all. I'm going to South America. And I said, gosh, this opportunity, and I found it very interesting. So again, I just changed my plan that I had to go to South America. I canceled my ticket and decided I will go to Hanoi and help this company there on this project without knowing will I stay 2-3 months, will I stay 6 months, whatever will happen there. I just decided, well, sounds interesting, the opportunity is great, and let's explore Hanoi. Let's explore living in Hanoi for a time being. So I just changed my plan and went to Hanoi. With this experience, you can imagine, I don't plan anymore. Eventually, I decided to back to your point of what's next. I decided to not stay in Hanoi and invest the rest of the year into myself, into personal health, mental health, do a number of projects doing remotely, based out of Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, and see what will happen. So what's my plan and what's next? I have no idea. I will do prototypes. I will support a few startups in interim roles or fractional roles, and then I will take it from there.
Right. It's a moment. Sorry, I'm getting an echo. Just give me 1 second.
Okay.
Yeah. I just have to read. I think I'm curious about when you look at today's world, it's quite different from where you were in the past. And
Yeah.
as much as I think we also discussed that with AI and with potentially many aspects, right? The place we are living is different. And I understand that you are not planning and you do have a little bit of plan to relocate, right? How do you think the world we are living in today is different and is for a lot of people, including ourselves? Yeah.
Basically, has changed a lot, and I think everyone is noticing it. And you asked earlier, what is the view on AI, and what is pretty much the indication of it? If you ask around, I think everyone thinks of, well, the changes because of AI. I look at this one in a very different manner. I think AI is still in a very early stage, and it takes a number of years to really make a massive difference. I think the change that we see right now, and is coming from very different, for different reasons. I think if I look at reasons what has changed over the last 12 years is, I think COVID-19 left this everyone on us. And it's different on how we respond it for sure. But it definitely alterated our lifestyles, our values on how we work and what we're willing to do. It shifted the mindset much more towards remote being normalized. It shifted so much more into, hey, we are okay to work with foreign talents, even though they are not in the same office. But it also changed many things in a way of how we work and where we live. So in my case, in Singapore, I was in an employment pass back then, and I knew if I will lose my job, I have to leave the country. pre-COVID, it was less of a concern. Well, the world was fairly open, and I knew, well, with a German passport, I can always go to Malaysia 3 months, Indonesia 3 months. Life was fairly easy in that way. I don't have family here, so I was fairly agile in that way as well. But with COVID, I realized countries locking down, and you can't enter countries like this anymore. So I think people realize much more of what does it mean in terms of job security and in my life in another country. So for everyone in Singapore, which is an employment pass, if they lose their job, they have to leave the country within 30 days, unless they have a new job lined up, which is getting much harder these days. Getting PR is also much harder. So I think the conditions of legally working in another country has changed a lot, which obviously impacts how we look at work and how we worry about our job security. Job security can basically mean two things. One is having a stable income. But the other one is also, what does it mean to my life in Singapore? And I've seen a number of foreigners in Singapore being on employment pass who at one point will start freaking out of, my job is unstable. What does it mean for my life in Singapore? With my applications, I have a rental contract, I have a license here, I have a partner here. What does it really mean in this context? So I think this has massively changed. And COVID actually, well, people realize this one, even though this kind of threat was there before as well. People start realizing how real it is and what it means if they lose their job. And this includes myself, because I started realizing what happens if I lose my job in Singapore. I will be back in Germany in no time. So that was definitely one important element. Please go ahead.
I'm curious if there is a change you wanting a bit more security at this phase of your life, or in just a general observation and felt sense of less stability.
I guess the biggest threat as long as to myself was not necessarily job-wise. It was much more of, can I stay in Asia? I knew I wouldn't want to go back to Germany. I have changed significantly since living in Asia, and I love how things work in the area, and I really enjoy living in Southeast Asia. So I knew for sure I wouldn't want to go back to Germany, and I think the threat for me was mostly on where can I live and how can I continue living here. So it was less about the job. It was much more. I thought the job much more as an instrument of providing me with a visa and the right to stay in a country, and not so much of a stable income. So I think COVID was definitely one element that changed or showed on how things have changed. But I think there were other reasons how we feel about how things have changed. There's an overall shift towards sustainability and value generation. And we have seen this one significantly in the tech industry, where things have changed from, well, money is for free and just take the money and burn millions over the next years, into, well, what is the path towards making profits? And I think this hit the tech industry massively over the last 1.5 years, which then started, all the companies started realizing we can't continue burning money like this. And so all this massive, all this hiring and overhiring, there was a right shifting towards that part. So I think this is definitely the next thing to realize, that people hired like left, right. And at one point they realized, hey, we can't spend money like this anymore. And there was a right side in the industry. So this right siding, people felt there was a stress. And coming back to what I mentioned earlier of the right living in a country, there's an impact of that. And so the stress was definitely there of what does it mean to my job security. And I think this impacted the work ethics quite a lot. How, if I look at workspace right now, I think it's the loyalty has changed. The loyalty from an employer has changed towards, well, you have the right size and you overhired in the past, pretty much your resource, and we just kick you out as needed. And This also happened on the employee side, where they started realizing, hey, I'm not willing to do anything anymore. And it was like quite quitting on the employee side, say, hey, it's enough for me, and I'm taking things in a very different way. But also for those who wanted to stay in a job and trying to stay, backstepping happened, and my and it started quitting up. So I think it changed quite a lot on how the culture changed. And I discussed this with a friend of mine from working in Silicon Valley in a tech company, a big tech company, which was very well known for investing in the employees and having this mental health days and doing everything possible to really invest in the staff. And it's not the same there. So the culture there changed as well. And all this backstepping and covering their own position is the same there. So it's not only a situation you have here, it's a situation you have in Silicon Valley as well, apparently. So all of this doesn't relate to AI. I think it starts relating to the challenges we had over the last years, as mentioned earlier, COVID-19 and the shift towards sustainability, which then impacted the style of working massively. And I think AI is just part where people fear of being replaced by something they don't know or fully understand. But I don't think AI really plays a role yet. It's just pretty fierce.
That's really interesting to hear that, well, right now a lot of focus is on the AI, but then actually you're saying there were a lot of fundamental changes already happening in the tech space, and that decrease of sort of loyalty and that increased sense of this engagement that has been already quite in place. And I think you also brought in the Singapore example where, governments, there's increasing nationalism, right? A lot of these movements, anti-global movements, that's all there, that's quite real for us. And I understand, and I think this AI anxiety or AI-induced anxiety, or excitement as well, right? For some, it's just kind of, it feels like it's making things worse, or is it increasing our freedom? Like, is it going to replace a lot of the coders, people in tech, or is it bending this whole trend that tech industry has grown too fast that it needs to go lean, and then now with AI, it's going to be automated and a lot of fat will be shed. I think that's a very realistic question a lot of tech people are having in the back of their mind.
I mean, you mentioned one keyword here, automation, and I think automation is here for a long, long time. And please, if fear people have, they would have the same natural fear about automation. We have used this process automation for 10 years, 15 years, and there are different terms, but pretty much it's all about efficiency. How can we achieve the same outcome in a more efficient way? So in the end, you can look at AI as a tool of automating things and making things more efficient. But the idea of using less resources to achieve the same outcome is not new. And this comes back pretty much to what Toyota has done in Japan, building the Toyota culture system and building up a company that is incredibly efficient in improving themselves constantly, which was also called lean management, which was coming back to my thesis, which I was doing my undergraduate degree of applying lean principles on R&D. Basically, what it meant is how can we automate more and burn inefficiencies in the R&D process. So it was already a big topic many, many years ago. So it's what I'm saying. AI is much more as a tool, and much more a tool to automate further. But the idea of automating isn't new.
The idea is new, and I'm wondering if the scale would be different. So I myself have witnessed a lot of change and potentially automation, how people lost jobs. Back in 2010, when a lot of banks were already relocating their call center or their bank services to other countries, lower cost countries. So a lot of people in Singapore lost their jobs. And then after that, followed by automation, a lot of people were actually agile. And I think right now, what happened in tech is people are finding that, that's their motivation compared to the earlier era. It might be a huge difference compared to back then. And I don't know what's your take here.
It might be faster. And I think they may automate faster. That's I agree with that. But I think there's also this appetite to be more efficient. And back to my earlier point is the times of free money are over. So the interest raised quite a lot. And companies realize they have to make money. And I think this interest to automate further is much more there than it was in the past. So yes, AI is an opportunity to accelerate these things, and actually giving the ChatGPT, giving a tool on the hand to everyone, automate in a smaller scale. And
Right.
for myself, I mean, how I use ChatGPT is often of reformatting or revising paragraphs or changing a long list in XML into different format. So things that I would have done or solved with coding in the past, writing a local script and executing it, I now do with ChatGPT. But I also constantly see the limits of ChatGPT of how far you can go. So it's something I have on my hand in terms of helping me, but you definitely have to still think about it, and you have to use this tool as well in the right way. You can't blindly trust this tool, at the moment at least.
Right. Okay. So thanks for sharing that view. I am conscious there are just 9 minutes before we end this talk, and I think we need to do two things. One is to explore a bit more about how we can, or in general, how people can stay resilient in their career when they are initially planning ahead or not planning, just strategizing, right? I can see that they don't plan, but you do have a strategy. Um, Sounds like from the past, right? There's a lot of that mindset of the risk taking and also being able to get those opportunities come and knock at your door, right? And then the other one is I would like to also see if any of our audience is ready to be promoted to panelists and have a discussion with us here. So I'm going to send out the invite and you can accept or decline. And if you want to join us, you can switch your video on so we can talk, or you can keep the video off if you feel more comfortable with that. Okay. If you don't feel comfortable to be promoted to panelists, just feel free to decline. And I think there are also a number of questions that we can go to address. So I'm still waiting for people to accept. Well, I think let me start with my question, Daniel. What do you think are the top strengths that helped you and that will help you in this world full of uncertainty?
I would think of curiosity. I'm a very curious person, and I'm very open to new ideas. And I think, as I said earlier, or whenever I try to plan, it didn't work out anyway. So that's why I stopped planning. And I think the openness for new ideas and getting in something and being curious and deep diving into it, I think certainly one of the key strengths, because you can't settle. This is the important part here. You asked earlier of what is the key aspects of being, strategy of pretty much being relevant. I would say you have to work on being relevant. Being relevant is not something which just comes like this. You have to look at what are the trends, how things are changing, and being open and adaptive enough to adapt to a changing environment. Come back to a startup world, product market fit. What is your product market fit in the career? And not running behind these things and saying, oh, well, this always works, is how is the world evolving and how do you fit in? And I think as long as you look at this from a product market fit lens, it's a good chance you will be relevant in the market.
Wow. See, I hear curious, I hear open, And it also sounds like being open to all the changes, being very sensitive to the environment that things are moving, and being really quite astute to reading that environment.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes. Yes, don't.
Hmm. So there are a few questions that's already from the audience. We have 5 more minutes, but if we need to, maybe we can take a few more minutes to just address your questions. And also, meanwhile, from the audience, if you have additional questions, please just put in a Q&A box. The first one is, what do you think of the jobs that will be lost first?
Oh, but it's of technology. That's an interesting one. I would think of any skill that is pretty much very easy to learn. Example, experience you can't learn, experience you gain over time. But anything that is you can learn fairly easy or technology has died. Obviously, these jobs will die first. Very good example. If I look at the project I have done in Vietnam, the team, they were trying their best, but I could see that they were lacking in significantly cloud knowledge. So pretty much was always thinking of on-prem, going as far as hosting the website on-prem because the cloud knowledge wasn't there. I was saying that if you're lacking these skills and you're only staying in the old world, these are the first jobs that will pretty much go at one point because they're not relevant anymore. So the important part is what is changing, what is the direction, and then these roles that stay in the old world will be gone first.
The jobs that stay in the old world, that's
Yes.
requiring skills and not so much of experiences. That would just,
Maybe a very good example is over the last years, we have moved significantly towards the cloud. If your job is you are an on-prem server engineer, your options are very limited. If you work for one of the big hyperscalers, AWS, Google, Azure, and you want to work at a data center, yes, of course, then this might be a skill that's needed. But with everyone moving more and more towards the cloud, and you are in the server architect, they manage on-prem servers, and nobody's using them anymore. You know that your days are counted.
yeah,
You've got much less options in the future.
yeah. And that just brought on one question about automation, because I think you talked about, automation has been there for a long, long time. But what's interesting is, AI, the earlier generation AI, they were really just really good at these tasks in a consistent way, right? Processes. But today's AI is at a very different level. It's not just the consistent process, repetitive tasks. But they are more intelligent, right? More intelligent than Gen AI. And they are able to do more creative work in that sense, right? So they are no longer replacing those repetitive tasks, but even something that requires some level of intelligence.
And
I think that's where it gets a bit hard to imagine, right? How even that, how we can then have a sense of what kind of jobs are at risk.
yeah, I would be happy to answer this either. So I will always look at pretty much what is the skill that we needed for a certain activity, and then think how easy it is to replace it. But I would answer either on which jobs really go first.
Yes, it's about complexity. And I think what I read today is that always remember the AI you are using today is going to be the worst AI that we ever use in your life. Because what we can be very sure about is that it's going to grow, right? It's going to evolve. And yeah, today we are using it like the Pac-Man, like just the arcade game, really simple. And then it's going to evolve into PlayStation. So next question then, Would you say risk taking is the biggest reason you succeeded? But what if you were wrong?
Well, with every investment, you need to think of, do you put all eggs in one basket or not? So I'm not saying, or not just saying, take any calculated risk, but at the same time, you can't expect anything to happen without taking any risk. Well, I think the important part is, what can you lose? Look at the current situation where I was deciding of, well, I will not continue working in Vietnam, and I will take invest the next 8-9 months of this year in myself, in health, working on projects I really like, continue to use things that I was always planning to do. Of course, there's a risk. It's a risk of, well, I may not have a paid job in next year, but what is really the risk I'm having here? I keep my cost of living constant. I have control over that part. I know what I can do, so pretty much the risk isn't too high. As long as I know I will not be unemployed for the next 20 years of my life, and I wouldn't have money to buy food, that would be the biggest risk, but it has a risk I can take.
Is it also fair to say, Daniel, like, and that's completely what I'm implying here, that even though you say put in all your savings into the business or, do your MBA, whatever, that is really a very small piece of the risk. Because to you, what you are really doing is you're investing in your future, you're building skills, you're building into your exposure. So in that sense, there's a lot of upside, but you are just putting in something that is much less, smaller part of things at stake.
But you can always look at this from a different perspective, right? You can say, I could say, oh my God, I will not have any stable income for the next 8-9 months. This is one view of I could take. Or I would say, I invest time in projects I always wanted to do. There are startups that I'm happy to help with, and right now an interesting project for Germany I'm working on. As another project I'm discussing now with this friends, and doing these things and investing my time is a more positive view on how I'm spending my time. So I think perspective is very important on how you look at these things.
Right. Okay. Of course, it depends on the person's risk threshold, right? Like I've worked with clients who are extremely prudent and careful. So for them, the risk threshold is like if they are going to run into a situation where they don't have income, they just completely freak out. And I would say for such, for people who have lower risk threshold, it is important that we work with whoever we are, and instead of running into that scenario, right? And it's not like, yeah.
And I mean, I think the important part here is also, what is this situation and how much do you lose, right? What helped me a lot is that I don't have children, I don't have family. So this helped me to move around like this in a heartbeat. And also it meant I can keep my control over my cost of living. Of course, if you're having 3 children and you're living a quite expensive lifestyle, this is a much harder decision to take. The risk is much higher if you're choosing everything than if you're in my situation. You definitely plays a role.
Right. So being able to keep your living expenses low helps
Yeah.
you to have a higher capacity to take risks and be mobile and say yes. But of course, yeah, I guess a couple of years down the road when then you're more grounded is potentially, family or commitments, then yeah, there will be a price to pay in terms of your priorities, I believe.
Agree.
Okay, very last questions before we will let the audience go as well. So what do you do to build and keep a strong network?
Not enough is actually the answer. I wouldn't even consider myself being a great networker.
How did it happen? I'm curious.
I have no idea. well, I usually go to these events and I'm just being myself and being the nerdy tech guy and talking about interest and so I connect with others. I always found it's very hard going at networking events and saying I'm this and have built this. I find this very annoying. I don't need to go there to show off. Actually, I just go there being myself and either connect with someone or I don't connect with someone. And I think the important part is don't ask for anything. You should connect with someone naturally and you can build a relationship. It is not based on, well, this person wants to tell me something, this person is pushing for something. And it's much more natural interest into someone. These are relationships that pretty much will last. And then at one point, people remember you and, hey, who was this guy? Let me ask him if he's keen. But those who reach out on networks and say, hey, I want to tell you something, usually, well, I don't need it and there's no interest in reading this further. So back to your question, I think going there, being myself and trying to connect with someone on a proper level. But again, I wouldn't call myself a great networker. What helped a lot in Singapore and I think Colombo as well, people are always open to meet for coffee. And this made my life after my MBA very, very easy in Singapore. I reached out, well, I leveraged the internet network heavily back then, but every single person was willing to meet for coffee. So for the first 2.5 months, 3 months, I was in Singapore, having obviously very high cost of living, but I always ask, hey, when I have a coffee, I buy and I get to know them. And this helped quite a lot.
Which is a bit rare, in the tech domain, especially the tech people. A lot of times they're shying away from, really networking in person. But I think if we are able to really hug those need to show off, or in a sense, need to feel I'm worthy, that I'm somebody, we can hug that and we can hug that, agenda stuff, like I need something from others and just be there to connect. I think that
Exactly.
makes such experience a lot more pleasant.
Absolutely, absolutely right. And this is the beauty of this area. There's so many events you can go, like so many startups events. And just go there, be real, be yourself, and try to connect with someone. Have beers with them, and this is really connect at one point. Don't go there with the intention of I want this other person. Go there to connect, be yourself, make friends, and then everything else will happen eventually.
Wow, that's lovely. Thank you so much, Daniel. For also going over the time. So thanks for sharing your career journey. What a fascinating journey. And also sharing with us, several busy careers and how we look at the past and the future. And yeah, I'm really grateful for that sharing. So, yeah, to our the next session for this series is not going to be next Tuesday, but next Wednesday evening, same time, Singapore time, 7 p.m. It's going to be with Jill. I will stop the session here, and thanks to those who stayed with us on the way to here, and have a great evening, or I don't know, afternoon or night or day ahead, depending on where you are in the world. Hope to be able to see you in the future. Then we
Thanks, really.
recording, and then can you stay on just for a few minutes?